is your mission? What is your value add? What are your core values? Why should someone choose to purchase your product? I think those are the questions that any business leader would need to ask themselves to really figure out why someone would choose their product.
Welcome to another episode of the Coffee Break Podcast, where our mission is to share business ideas, practices, and strategies while we enjoy our cup of coffee. Today's guest is Bill Johnston from Recover Brands. Pretty excited to have a conversation with him today. A very hyper-local company that is working on building apparel with sustainable manufacturing and sustainable product and sustainable materials. It's a pretty cool process, and he's very, very passionate about it. He's going to give you a lot of information. We're going to talk a little bit about the process of it, but we're also going to talk a little bit about how they're continuing to scale and grow their company. So stay tuned for all of that. Before we jump into the conversation, though, we do want to invite you to subscribe. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe with on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook so you can get the video version, or whatever podcast platform you're listening to this right now. Make sure you subscribe. We have a brand new episode that comes out every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., and we don't want you to miss a single episode. So grab a cup of coffee and get ready for this conversation.
We got so much to say. We got a podcast to make. We're sipping on lattes, and it's time for a coffee break. It's time for a coffee break. Oh, yeah.
All right, Bill, thanks for joining us today. We're going to jump into rapid fire. 5 randomly selected questions just to get under your skin with unknown point values. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, question number 1. What do you secretly hoard?
Ooh, secretly hoard. That's a great. That is a great question. I've got a drawer full of socks right now that I don't know why I can't. I need to actually close loop them and put them back into our supply chain because we can break those down. But I've got a drawer full of socks that is building up, and my wife is telling me I've got to get rid of some of them.
I hear you. I probably hoard USB cables. It's horrible.
That's enough. Yeah.
It's like, do I legitimately? I mean, I can see 15 of them right here within an eyesight. Like, do I really need all these? All right. Question number 2. What is something that you find attractive that others may not?
That's a great question. Let's see. Sorry, I know I'm supposed to go off the top of the head on this. Yeah, I would say, in the spirit of this conversation, I find composting very attractive, and a lot of people find it quite filthy. So.
I like it. Very creative. Question number 3. What do you believe that is the current biggest thing that is holding you back from kind of the next big thing?
Yeah, I think just general awareness. We're trying to get our brand message out there as much as possible, and we do have some constraints as a small business, but we're really excited this year to just continue to amplify the message and get the word out about Recover.
All right, question number 4. Do you have a bucket list?
I have a list of things that I really want to do and places that I want to go. I don't necessarily think of it as a bucket list because it makes it feel very morbid and closer to death. But I do have some things on my list that are I've got to do at some point. So yeah, I guess you can call that a bucket list, but I don't like to think of it that way.
All right, last question, number 5. What are your 5 favorite words at the moment?
I would say, we actually did a brand exercise last week. So I'll include a couple of those from a business standpoint. And I would say intentional is one of those. Genuine is another. And then from a personal standpoint, people always tell me I say the word for sure, or the phrase for sure a lot. So I guess I've got to keep for sure on there. Mm-hmm. And then I say, let's see. You asked for 5?
Yeah, 5. That's
yeah, that gives us 3 of them. So AI. Responsible would be another one that was included in our brand exercise that I think is really important. And then sustainability has got to be on there as well. I say it a lot, and it's one of those words that it can sort of means infinity. People are always asking, what does that really mean? And it's, it's in our company tagline. It's what we do. And I think constantly having the conversation of what it really means to our company and what it really means in general. And I think it has different definitions for everyone, but I think it's a word that's out there a lot. And I think people, it sparks a lot of thought and intrigue. So that's definitely got to be in there.
All right. Congratulations. You passed rapid fire. We'll give you a score of 512.
There we go. Well, thanks.
We understand the frustrations HOA board members and property managers face when deciding the best solution for their HOA and pool security. Should we use a keypad, hand out keys, or install a key card system? Do we even need cameras? These are some of the questions that are difficult to navigate, and we're here to help. At Loc-Doc Security, we've spent over 20 years working with homeowners associations and property managers to find the system that best fits the pool and HOA needs. Camera systems for the front gate or front entrance, key card systems for the pool gates, or simply updating the gate so that it meets safety and code compliance. We like to take the guesswork out of the process to answer any questions and help find the right solution. Our mission is to help you protect your people and your property, and that includes pools. Contact our team today to schedule your free consultation for your community. We'll just kind of jump into the conversation, get a little understanding a little bit about your business. How many employees do you have?
So at our office here, we have 8, and then our manufacturing is spread out in different areas. So we have, screen printings in Spartanburg, knitting is in Statesville, and each of those locations has roughly 20 employees. Okay. So it's a little bit spread out, but here in Charlotte, just 8. Okay.
And then one of the questions that I might want to dive into with you is, how do you measure to stay on track? Like, how do you know you're headed in the right direction? So you obviously are mission driven, so you've got a focus on that. So you've got kind of a top level mission guided focus, but how does your team know, what does winning look like for, this week, this month, this year? And then how are you tracking against that?
Yeah. So, we certainly set, revenue targets on an annual basis of, what we're aiming for. And we have it on an annual basis. And then we have, 3 to 5 year revenue targets as well that we're all kind of working towards. Here's the goal. And then, those are broken down into, what we need to do on a monthly basis and then weekly basis as well. Within that, we put a lot of emphasis on our 100% of our product line being sustainably made. So, that goes into how we're sourcing the products. Right now, and really since the company's beginning, we fortunately put such a strong criteria on that we're confident that 100% of our products are sustainably made. And we have, different ideas of where we're going to make the product, depending on the season, and goals for, getting X percent of our products to US made, for example, by certain dates. So it kind of depends on the, how we're measuring it. But I'd say a lot of it is, we try to hit those revenue targets to make sure that we're continuing to grow and stay relevant. So, if you're asking more specifically on the, the environmental side, we can certainly elaborate on that as well.
Well, and more so, which that'd be interesting to understand, but more, I guess. So, do you have targets? Like, is it just purely revenue focused, or is it like we need to sell this number of? I'm looking at your categories. Men's this, women's prints. Like, how do they know where to focus their energy, or is it just revenue?
No. So yeah, we certainly have, markets that we focus on.
Mm-hmm.
So we sell a lot into the outdoor market, the run market. We do a lot in the corporate space, craft beer. We're growing a lot in the in schools, collegiate space, gift shop business. So we break it out into really 7 different markets that we focus on.
Okay.
And we have certain goals for each of those markets. Okay. And some of those are more seasonal than others. Sure. For example, the resort business that's, this time of year is heavy with fleece products, our hoodies that sell into those. Whereas, when you move into spring and summer, our running markets pick up a lot when we have really big races that we supply shirts for. And those are more, short sleeve, performance tops and that sort of thing. So it varies a little bit on the season and on the market. So we track that pretty specifically. The other thing we look at a lot is, we certainly have as revenue targets, but then also, measuring things of, gross profits, obviously a big part of it. And making sure we're selling really high quality products at a nice margin that we can then turn around and invest in other things. And being a mission driven company, we have a big giving component. So we are, 1% for the Planet member, which means that we donate a minimum of 1% of our total revenue. That's not profit, revenue to environmental organizations. And so the more successful we are in, driving sales, the bigger impact we can make by supporting organizations that we believe in. Some local ones, for example, would be like the Catawba Riverkeeper, where we're able to make, donations to them and help support and fund some of their programming. And we have nonprofits throughout the country that we work with in a similar capacity. So for us, hitting some of those sales and revenue targets at the right margin allows us to invest and put money and resources behind the organizations and the causes that we believe in.
Very cool. It's wild to see. I mean, because you're selling worldwide.
Yeah, we certainly our largest market is the U.S. Obviously, but we've got some good international traction going. Canada in particular is growing a lot. We get a lot of requests in Australia, New Zealand more so pre-pandemic, but and then the UK is another market. But we've got a growing customer base global.
And I mean, I'm not asking for all of your industry secrets, but what is the major driver for awareness there? Is it online marketing? Is it because you're connecting up with events that are pertinent to this? Is it like, that's wild that you would be, because you're a Charlotte-based company and you're selling to New Zealand and different places like that. That's incredible.
Yeah, so a lot of it, it's a combination of marketing efforts, right? When we started out and, being a smaller business, we haven't necessarily had, huge marketing budgets, especially when you look at larger companies. So a lot of our efforts have been really grassroots and organic. We put a ton of emphasis on getting out in the community, setting up at events. And those are, a lot of consumer oriented events. And that's been a huge part of our marketing strategy since the beginning. So we first started up, it was like, hey, if we could partner up with this running race, let's say they had 5,000 runners, we would show up at the event. Ideally, we're making the shirt for all the participants. Obviously, that's part of the sales cycle, but we're there, we're getting out there, we're talking to the runners and the people coming by and really trying to build the brand in a very organic and grassroots way. And that's been an approach of ours since the beginning. Obviously, we combine that with a digital strategy that, helps us reach a larger audience in other markets. And then, a big part of it too is as we're getting the name out there, one of the best things that we can do is provide a great product and service, which in turn we get referrals and, people start hearing, oh, well, this is a really high quality product with a great service. And, if you're putting on a race here in North Carolina, you might let your buddy know who's a race director in California and say, hey, this is a great company to work with. And so that's why the quality of the product and the service that we provide is such a key part of it. And then, we're moving into year 12 now. So you start building a reputation. Yeah, we're still a young company in a lot of ways, but we've also been around for a little while. And, we're one of the pioneers in the sustainable apparel space. When we first started in 2010, it was such a novel concept to make apparel out of recycled plastic and recycled cotton. And people were just blown away by the idea. I mean, they kind of thought we were crazy for trying to do it. And, every year you can kind of see people getting more in tune, more engaged, and really more educated. And now, you're starting to see mass populations realize, hey, we've got to be thinking about the environment, sustainability, and what we can do to be a part of it. And so we try to be there as a solution. And so there's just so many different things that kind of play into that general awareness. But I think a lot of it really boils down to just being approachable, being out there, and getting the word out in a very organic and grassroots way.
Yeah, it's intriguing. So you kind of bring this process and say, okay, we can make clothing, we can make apparel with this process, and now it's just you kind of tack. Well, how do we get that mission out and connect up with the right people? And then it just kind of is a reciprocal growth process, right? Because you're supporting things that are important to you, which connects to people that's important to them, and then you're providing apparel. Like, it's just kind of stacks on top of each other.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the things we've found is, most of our customer base is just generally fired up to be a part of it. They want to be part of that solution for a more sustainable tomorrow. So there is investing in what we're doing. And, by buying one of our shirts, they're becoming part of the story, the sustainability story, to provide alternatives and really have a circular economy where, they know when they invest in one of our products that at the end of that product's life cycle, they can send it back to us. We can put it through our closed loop program, make sure it never ends up in the landfill, and just those things that are just part of our overall sustainability story. And we're kind of inviting more and more people and customers to be part of that and kind of share that journey with us. And I think that part of it has been really contagious on both the business to business side of things, which is our main business. It's about 90% of what we do. And then, but also our business to consumer, which is growing. And that's just general awareness around reaching individual consumers.
So you have effectively a structure. You've got some kind of target markets. We were just kind of talking about, going back a few moments ago, talking about you've got different markets that you're serving, and you have different targets within those. From a communication perspective, because this is just something that I'll say is probably, I'll selfishly ask this question because this is some things that we're going through in our organization right now. When you have 7 different markets or 7 different kind of targets that you're looking at, how do you continue? Where have you struggled with it, or where have you found success in communicating those targets to your team and saying, hey, this is where we're headed. This is kind of how we think we can get there. Obviously getting some collective feedback and input. And then from that, monitoring and measuring that going forward. I'm in the middle of reading a book right now called Measure What Matters. And
oh yeah.
All right. So my mind's in kind of that space right now is, so when you're looking at something like your business, how are you communicating that over to your team to say, this is where we want to go. This is our our wildly important goal that we're trying to accomplish. Now, how do we bring everybody together to accomplish it?
Yeah, for sure. And then that's sort of the $1 million question, right? It's kind of what we're juggling constantly of trying to figure out, how do we balance all those different variables and different markets that we're approaching to reach the ultimate goal, and that's really to be the leader in sustainable apparel. Specifically, we look at North America as where we want to be considered the leader in this space and in this industry, and we stay pretty focused on that. But with all the different markets that we're targeting, I think a lot of it is important that you've got to know, everyone has to know what that longer term goal is and what we're aiming for. But then you've got to block and tackle to get there. And you've got to think about it of like, okay, this is my monthly target. This is where we're trying to get for the month. And these are the things that need to happen for us to get there on on a daily or weekly basis, and kind of helping everyone have that framework. One of the things that is challenging for us though is we have these different markets that we sell to. We've got these different wholesale business to business channels and 7 different markets. And how do we create our marketing to appeal to all of those? Because at the end of the day, you're only going to send out so many email blasts. You're only going to have so many social media posts. And how do you cultivate a story and message that resonates with all of those audiences? And that's challenging. But I think for us, what we try to do is narrow down our brand message a little bit and really make sure that we're broadcasting those core values and letting people know, giving them transparency is a huge part of what we do. We want to let people in on how we're making product, where we're making product, all those different aspects. And so whether you own an outdoor brand or you're a buyer for a resort or you put on a running race or you buy merchandise for a craft brewery, at the end of the day, you are most oftentimes choosing to work with Recover for your custom apparel because of the way we make the product and how we make it. And so we try, regardless of the market, we try not to go too specific on one specific industry, but rather focus on what we do and share our values and what Recover is all about so that it appeals to all of those audiences. And so if you're a B2B buyer, you can kind of get a feel for what Recover does. Or if you're an individual consumer, you still get a feel for what our brand is all about. So that's the general approach. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but that's kind of the way we look at it, because it is, there's so many different variables and so many different audiences that we're talking to out there.
Yeah. So effectively, you are an apparel company. I'm clicking with it. You're an apparel company that uses sustainable products. Or
yeah. Well, we use sustainable materials in all of our products. Yeah. So the way we think about that, we really have like 3 different blends that we put in all of our products. So we use recycled plastic, which is post-consumer plastic that is water bottles, Coke bottles, Gatorade bottles, basically all the number ones that you put in your curbside recycling. We also use recycled cotton. And this is a part that is, pretty unique for us and in an area that's really growing. But basically what recycled cotton is we're taking a lot of manufacturing or textile waste that would otherwise end up in the landfill. We break those fibers down and blend it with the recycled poly to create a new blend. One of the coolest parts of that process is that the color in the garments actually comes from the recycled cotton. So on average, we use 10 times less water and energy than a conventional shirt that's dyed. So when we talk, we really think of ourselves at Recover as a sustainable apparel company. And what does sustainability really mean? It has a ton of different meanings, but for us, sustainability is really taking a holistic approach to everything that we do. And that's the materials that go into it, where we make it, who makes it, how we make it, how we distribute it, and how do we really minimize our impact as much as possible. Because the elephant in the room is anytime any product that's made has an impact on the environment, sure. Regardless what it is, whether it's the microphone you're talking in or the coffee cup you're drinking out of or the shirt you're wearing, everything has some sort of impact. So we try to minimize that impact as much as possible along the way, and then do good and support organizations that are, working on other environmental or social efforts as well. So, I guess to circle back to that question, yeah, we would consider ourselves a sustainable apparel company, and really specifically making apparel as a vehicle to kind of do good and share our mission and give consumers an alternative.
Can you copy this key? That's a question we get asked about 3,422 times a year. And how can you actually be sure that the person who asked that question is supposed to get a copy of that key? Well, we think you should always know who can copy your keys to your business and your home. because it could be your neighbor, an old employee, a contractor, or even worse, your mother-in-law. At Loc-Doc Security, we believe in protected key systems, so you always know who has a copy of your key. To find out more, visit locdoc.net or stop by our Charlotte location. Loc-Doc Security, helping you protect your people and your property. So I'm following with you. The glasses that I'm wearing are right now are from Johny Fly. Right. So, and the reason that I buy the glasses from him is for that very reason, right? It's they're using sustainable products to create eyewear and other products as well. And so you get behind that, and there's a reason. So you have a choice as a consumer to buy wherever or whatever. I'm looking at your website here. I can see, polo shirts. You can buy polo shirts from wherever. It's not a specialty product, but it's getting behind the Recover brand and saying, I believe in what you guys are doing and I want to support that. And so I would choose to purchase my products from this. So that's really, just kind of circling back. And I know that's what you said at the beginning is we're a mission-driven company, and that's just kind of understanding that. I'm intrigued because I'm trying to think through the process to other companies as well. So if you were to sit down at a table virtually or in person and say, hey, what is the mission behind your company and why would someone want to choose to do business with you when you're a dime a dozen and you're the dime a dozen coffee shop, you're the dime a dozen, whatever. Why would somebody want to do business with you? That is your differentiating factor. For you, it is your mission that you're about. How is it that you would recommend to other people in their business to say, hey, what is it that you're driving? What is your mission that you're trying to get people excited about, and how does that bleed over into what you do?
Absolutely. And that's a great question, because I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is encourage our customers and people in general to be more intentional consumers, to really think about what they're buying. And, from a business leader standpoint, or any business that would be kind of looking themselves in the mirror or having this conversation, is really for them to step back and think about, all right, what is your mission? What is your value add? What are your core values? Why should someone choose to purchase your products? And I'm somewhat repeating what you just said, but I think those are the questions that any business leader would need to ask themselves to really figure out why someone would choose their product. And if they can't answer that, and the answer isn't always that obvious, especially with companies that maybe have been around for a long time,
sure,
where this new idea of consumers being educated, access to information, and people really wanting to be thoughtful and intentional with their purchasing. Older companies maybe didn't have to think about that before, or, it just wasn't part of the landscape as much. But I think in order for them to stay competitive and stay ahead, they really need to be asking themselves those questions and really taking a deep dive into what are our values and what do we really believe in. And if that's on the material side of things, or, maybe it's a company that's, making products here in the U.S., mm-hmm. or maybe they're supporting, underprivileged workers in other areas, or giving back to certain charities. There's just so many different aspects, but I think it's really important for any business now to really have that conversation and ask themselves, like, what do we really believe in, and how do we have some sort of component, some sort of social component or environmental in our business. And so, as you're sitting around having that conversation, I think that's what I would ask any business, regardless of size or, how long they've been around. I think for a startup or any newer business, incorporating those things into your company DNA from the beginning are really important, especially in today's landscape with the way consumers are more educated.
Yeah, it's so cool because we're sitting here having this conversation in the first, 15, 20 minutes. It's like listening to you talk. You're very passionate about the mission behind your business, and even more so overshadowing what it is that you sell. And so I'm sitting here scrolling through your website going, oh, man, they really have an entire plethora of products that they offer. Your focus is talking about sustainable sourcing, right? And bringing it all together, which is refreshing, because it's not just, hey, here's our widget, this is what we sell, but this is really what we're passionate about, and we're making our products differently than what you can go buy off the shelf elsewhere. So it's an inspiring reason to work with people. And then you take the kind of active environment that you guys are connected with on, the races and adventures and all of those. And then you kind of really bring kind of this whole holistic thing together of, one, we support, we're trying to create sustainable products, but we're also supporting people that are operating an active lifestyle, and those kind of two things merging together.
Absolutely.
It's very refreshing to hear, and man, I'm impressed with kind of what you guys are offering and what you've accomplished, and I feel like this conversation has kind of gone in a couple of different directions, and so I'm trying to bring it back to land, right?
Yeah, totally.
So you're a company that's 12 years in the making. You're supporting a lot of outdoor activities, and you're also supporting a lot of localized events as well, right? You have become very hyper local, but in a lot of different markets.
For sure, and I love the fact that you just used hyper local, because that's a word we use quite a bit with certainly with our market here, but also going back to how we make products as well. We really focus a lot on hyper local supply chains of making products locally. So about 50% of our product line is made within a 250-mile radius of Charlotte, which is a hyper local supply chain. That's from recycled material all the way down to cut and sew and finished garments and distribution. So we really try to put a lot of emphasis on that local aspect. And we being based here and having the origins of this organic marketing approach, we've been out in this greater kind of Blue Ridge, East Coast, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, region, if you will, and we really think of ourselves as based kind of in this region as much as anything. And you could argue that, particularly when we started up, sustainability, selling it in the Southeast might be the hardest place to do it. We would often hear that, especially when we go out on the West Coast and sell to different markets. But it's been so encouraging over the years to see that community and that network evolve. And so by having this local supply chain, this grassroots approach, and really community backed company, we've kind of just grown organically right here. So yeah, we are really focused on being out in the community in the greater Charlotte area, or this greater kind of Blue Ridge region that we think of. But then we also take the same approach to other markets as well. So the last really 3 years, 3 of our top 5 customers have been based in California. So there are, we have a strong presence out on the West Coast and other parts of the country. And it's a lot of it, we're not based there. We don't have, boots on the ground there like we do here, but we still have the same community driven approach. And so we kind of go to different areas and work with, races are a great example, because you see a lot of people in a short amount of time. It's a very active, enthusiastic community. And so we'll go set up at these race expos where we're making the shirts, introduce people to Recover, and really start building the community out there. And it's the same kind of referral based idea that we were talking about before, because people, the race if a race organizer or director in California is really excited about our product and believes in Recover, they're telling the local brewery, they're telling the coffee shop, they're telling all these different businesses, and it kind of snowballs from there. So it's the same kind of local, hyper local, community driven approach that we've built here and just kind of put it into different markets.
I like it. I want to be mindful of our time here. I think you've unpacked a lot. I want to kind of end this segment of this conversation with asking you because you seem like a very focused individual. You got a lot of energy and excitement around what you're doing. What is something right now that you're working on that you're really, really excited about?
Yeah, we're continuing to stay really focused on supply chain, and that's really building what we consider to be the best supply chains in the world. So I mentioned in the last question on our local supply chains where we're making products, right? About 50% of our products here in the U.S. The other half of our products are made at a factory a new partner factory of ours in El Salvador. And the coolest thing about the production in El Salvador is everything is made from raw material to finished garments within a 5-mile radius.
Oh, wow.
And so when you're talking about hyper local and really focusing on, impact driven carbon reduction supply chains, that's about as good as it gets. And we are really, really excited about the developments that we're working on in El Salvador and our ability to expand our product lines. There's a really great workforce of highly skilled sewing operators, a lot of innovative textile machinery. And so that's one of the things that is really kind of helping us elevate it and amplify our message is this new supply chain in El Salvador and in our ability to make products really all in one location. So what that looks like is we're bringing in recycled cotton scraps, recycled poly to a facility in El Salvador. We're breaking down the materials, spinning it into yarn, knitting it into fabric, and cutting and sewing it into a finished garment, all within that 5-mile radius.
Wow.
And so when you look at the carbon footprint of that garment, it's not zero, but it's about as close as you're going to get to it from start to finish. And then the distribution, El Salvador is extremely close proximity to the U.S. We're able to bring goods through Miami and straight up to Charlotte, which proximity wise is, that's like going to Colorado from here. It's really close. And so we're able to really reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and carbon emissions associated with making these really high end products. And I think as we compare that to other supply chains around the world, one of the things that people don't often overlook is, you get some larger brands that are introducing, say, recycled poly or recycled plastic into their product offering, but they're not really taking a full holistic approach to the sustainability behind it. Yeah, it's great if they're putting recycled material in the product, but it's not great if they're sending it back and forth across the world. And the carbon emissions that are associated with that are just profound. And I think for us to really think about a more sustainable future, a lot of the manufacturing has to get localized, and we have to cut down on carbon emissions, which is really one of the biggest threats that we're facing. I think if you talk with, any climate leaders and in setting really ambitious goals over the next 30 years or so, of what we need to do as a global society to combat climate change and really reduce carbon emissions is one of the biggest driving forces. And so we're trying to be a leader in our niche industry of sustainable apparel, but to showcase that, hey, we can rethink the way we're making products and we can do this in a different way. And hopefully that inspires other apparel companies. Hopefully it inspires other companies making entirely different products in a different industry, but kind of stepping back and rethinking the way that they're doing things and how they're doing it and trying to be as sustainably minded as possible throughout the whole process.
I like it. Hey, Bill, thank you again for joining us today. It was a blast and I learned a lot. One, You present the company really, really well, very passionate about the process, and it's really inspiring to kind of have a conversation with somebody like that is very mission-driven in everything that they do. Thank you for joining us today. If you haven't already, check them out. It's recoverbrand.com. Great website, great products, and you can support them on their website. And then if you want to find out more about Bill Johnston, it's all available on the website, recoverbrands.com. Thank you for joining us today. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time right here on the Coffee Break Podcast.